Hi there, I'm Heath Fletcher, host of The Healthy Enterprise. This episode is part of a limited series called Moneyball. It's in conjunction with the BLPN Club. BLPN's Moneyball program helps founders step up to the plate and knock fundraising out of the park. You'll hear about the people, their ventures, and their pitch-making experiences. I hope you enjoy it. Doug, welcome to this episode of the special edition Moneyball series. Looking forward to hearing about yourself, your background, IR Medtek, and your Moneyball experience.
Well, thank you for having me.
So let's start with yourself. What's the story? What's your backstory? What led you to this role now?
So our story is a little bit unique in terms of my background is mechanical engineering, MIT, a long time ago, part of a family business that we grew up and sold to a private equity group, and really afforded me the opportunity to make a pivot in life. And my MO has always been devices to help people, inspired by a professor dating back to MIT named Ernesto Blanco, who did all kinds of different assistive technology. And along the way, started a company to build braille displays for blind people. And came across this technology when a business partner of mine was looking for some additional consulting work. Said, this is fiber optics. He was an expert in fiber optics. They said, let's go have coffee with this professor at Ohio State, because he's talking about fiber optics and cancer detection. I said, this is cool. I said, so went over to Ohio State. That turned out to be a big presentation by Ohio State for a lot of reasons. But after a 2-hour meeting, we left that meeting. Andy and I looked at each other and we said, gee, this could work. And but we're going to need a whole lot of team members to do this. We said, okay, let's figure this out and let's go for it, because how often do you get the opportunity to have a meaningful impact in the cancer fight? So that's what really got us started. We started in 2019. We put the company together and kind of took it from there and just started laying out a path that made sense.
So when what was the core problem or the gap that you guys noticed was, there's an opportunity here?
So the first part of this was we looked at it from the cool factor. What does this do? This technology is a mid-infrared light technology, and it can tell tumor from non-tumor on tissue, any tissue at all. And with that, we said, gee, this is so cool. How do we apply it? What makes sense? Let's take off the technology hat, put on the business hat, and say, where is there a challenge in healthcare that we can add value? And looked across the range of different applications of cancer detection and said, skin cancer looks really interesting. And spent some time looking at it, skin cancer, because it's a non-invasive path. It's easy to touch. It's a huge market. What is it? 1 in 5 people by the age of 70 will suffer from skin cancer. And we said, what's the pain point in skin cancer? And when we looked at it, we said, there's a lot of skin biopsies that are done every year that come back negative. In fact, the vast majority of them do. Right. We said, maybe we can add some value if we can avoid some of those negative skin biopsies. So from there, we started laying out the path, and we looked at it. And really from day one, we said, what is it going to take for us to be successful? What does the cost look like? What is the reimbursement? What is the payments? What does everything look like in order for this to be successful? And we did that from day one. And then from there, we said, okay, does the science actually meet this? And does it meet this threshold that we're going to need to have to be successful? And every science meeting we've had, we're constantly having the conversation of what's the results? What's the accuracy? Does it meet this? And the answer is yes. To this date, it has exceeded our expectations.
Wow, that's pretty exciting, actually. Like you said, it is a huge market. And when did you start this process? So when was that meeting, that initial meeting with the three?
So our initial meeting with OSU was back in the end of 2018. And we really spent 9 months trying to talked to various doctors and clinicians and technical people. And really, we wanted to make sure that we can come up with a business plan that didn't require us to build something that was going to cost $1 million and we had to sell it for 5. You know,
Right.
we had to have something that made sense. So we spent a lot of time talking to industry people as well, making sure that we can put something together and components are even available to be able to do what we're trying to do. And through the answer, once we went through that 9 months, we got into an answer of yes, let's make a run at it. So we did, and a few of us put some money into it. We formed the company, and off we went, just in time for COVID. So great timing to start a company. So really got delayed by about year and a half before we really could get going and do our first study.
Very interesting. And so then that was, so you're at 2021, 2022 there. So that's when you really got to work, right?
Yeah. And that's when we conducted our first of 4 studies that we've done to date. And all we did was, hey, okay, let's take the tech for a spin. Does it work? And when it did, we said, oh, this is interesting. Okay. Does it work for doing this? And we set out a whole bunch of milestones along the way because we said, okay, it's going to take a bunch of money. We're going to have to pull in investors. Each time we pull in investors, we're going to de-risk the technology and we're going to move it forward. So each time we said, okay, the first step is, does it work? Appears to work. We have 18 patients in this study. So we pulled in some money and that allowed us to conduct a bigger trial. We then did a second study, hit some more milestones. Continues to work, pulled in some more money, and went on from there.
And now, today, where are you at now in the trajectory?
So at this point, we've conducted 4 studies to date, enrolled more than 700 patients, have 3 publications out there. We have 8 patents and several more filed. So we have a beautiful patent portfolio protecting
very good. Yeah.
the technology. We've built several operable devices that work and can detect cancer. Our next step is to take those basically first version devices and turn it into final products. And with that, finish out the machine learning models and then go for FDA approval, which is a class 2 medical device.
Very interesting. So describe the device for listeners a little bit here. Is it a handheld device? Is it
Yeah, so the best way to think about it is think of a blood pressure machine mounted on a cart. You're going to have this cart that's going to wheel into the room, and then you're going to have a little fiber optic end with a pen point on the end of it. So the stylus is essentially a pen. And with that pen, and the tip of the pen is about the size of a ballpoint pen. You'll bring it down, you'll touch a lesion on your skin, and in 15 to 30 seconds, you'll get an output after touching the skin. And that output will be biopsy it or don't biopsy it.
Right. Interesting. I mean, for people who haven't had a skin scan, I mean, my father actually died of melanoma, so I get regular skin scans and constantly verified. And actually, the very first time I actually booked a skin scan, I thought, oh, a skin scan. I had an idea. I had a picture in my mind. I thought I was going to be lying down on a bed and the machine was going to scan me from head to toe. It's not the case. It is one freckle to another or one mole to another, and it's if the doctor's actually using a loop and then circling the ones that they don't like, and then so doing that stuff. So I can imagine that this step would be like, oh, this one I don't like, they just check it and it's real time. It tells them, yeah, don't worry about that one, move on. Is it that quick?
So you're one of the few that's doing a full body scan at a dermatologist on an annual basis. The vast majority of people will see a skin lesion of concern and they go to their primary care doc, or while they're doing an annual checkup, they say, hey, while I'm here, can you take a look at this spot? I'm worried about this spot on my hand. And that's how a lot of initial diagnosis or initial observations come about. So from there, that's where we want to help. We want to add value there. We want to provide more information to the primary care doc at that point in time so that they can make a better choice for path of care, other than saying, I'm worried about it, you should go get a biopsy done. From there, the patient might say, doc didn't seem that worried, or I don't have time to go to a
Right, right.
dermatologist. So follow through is a huge concern. It's just natural, it's human nature that you see a machine that says red, you're more likely to follow through than if the doctor that says, you should probably get this done. So in
That's
that
right.
regards, we definitely can help improve care. We can help improve care because we're giving the primary care doc more information.
That's right.
So that's a big key. Primary care docs are people that are looking to help their patients. Not saying that every doctor isn't, but it is more of they want the ability to care for their patients better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes perfect sense, because then now you're actually hitting it right at point of contact where it's a concern to somebody because they've noticed. Not necessarily in my case where it's like it's more proactive because of a historical family experience. But now you're talking about somebody where somebody's noticed something themselves on their hand or leg or whatever, and now they're getting almost immediate feedback from their primary care doctor. So yeah, that makes sense.
Correct. So once we get in the market, there is a chance that we can get into dermatologist office as well, especially as dermatologists are so overbooked at this point. Their
Oh,
business
it's
is growing
crazy.
faster than the number of dermatologists is growing, and that makes sense. The population
Yeah.
is aging, and there's only so many dermatologists that come out every year. So as a result, things like full body scans are getting passed down to PAs and nurse practitioners that are doing a
Right.
lot of these full scans. So in that case, we could augment what the PA and nurse practitioners are doing in the dermatology offices in a lot of ways. So there's a path for us to help in that market as well. But that's the beauty of us targeting the primary care space is it really creates what I call the participation award in the healthcare space, because the patient obviously wins if they can get a scan and avoid a needless biopsy. That's a huge win. The
Huge
primary
win.
care doc wins because they get to provide better care for their patients. The dermatologists win because they get better referrals. They get
Mm-hmm.
people that are coming to them that they don't have to take a look at and say, you didn't need to get referred. There's nothing here.
Yeah.
You avoid all of that cost, that anxiety, that office visit that's involved. That can all be avoided. The dermatologists want that because they're so busy, they don't want to waste time with that kind of a visit. And then healthcare, of course, wins because it's cheaper to do a scan than it is to do a biopsy with path reports and extra office visits.
Wow. So you must get great response when you first deliver this or present this. And as CEO, you're kind of doing that consistently. You're always presenting this, whether it's to for research or it's for investors, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And initial traction and response has been fantastic. And the investors that we pulled in to date can all see it, and can either have had an experience with skin cancer, know somebody, or
Mm-hmm.
can understand the business side of it very well, and it's just an easy path to understand.
And let's talk about your presentation experience, because going out and talking to investors, looking for funding, you have to present your story. You have to present the pitch, and you went through the Moneyball program through BLPN, and you've had an opportunity to kind of refine your pitch over the last couple of years. So let's talk about when you first started, sort of doing that. Where did you find the challenges in delivering this story to potential funders?
So the biggest challenge I would say we had was, or at least I had, was the confidence of, is the pitch resonating? Am I saying the right things? Am I targeting the right things?
Mm-hmm.
And with one of the reasons I wanted to go through the Moneyball program And I really look at it as an accelerator and a refinement of what we were doing, because
Right.
when the people that came into that started working with our Medtek and with our presentation, it wasn't so much changing, it was really refining. It was fine tuning elements of it and in tweaking our messaging. We had
Right.
all the components there, but it wasn't necessarily in the right order. It wasn't in coherent order, or it wasn't emphasizing the key elements, which I truly loved. It wasn't. They didn't take our deck and say, basically, you're idiots. We're going to start all over, and this is nonsense.
Tear it
This
all
is
up,
this
throw
is
it in the
how you
garbage.
should be talking about it. No, they were just absolutely lovely people that were very, very reinforcing. And we had a great coach with Michael Hill, who was the CTO of Medtronic, of course. Amelia Newberry was phenomenal. She could
Yeah.
just looked at the deck and like said, "You need to do this, this, and this," and she was spot on. It was just amazing, absolutely incredible people to work with along the way, and it really, by the end result of it, more than the deck refinement, it just gave us, and it gave me confidence that the message that we were saying and we were putting out there resonated. It made sense, and that's what works. And that was the biggest element that came out of that for me.
So that's great. So you were on the right track. You had, put together more or less the right tools. You just needed some fine tuning, and that's what they were able to provide you with.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And those tweaks really connect with people in a lot of ways that it was missing. It was just
Hmm.
pieces you kind of, kind of like the conversation transitions in a lot of way. But it was a way to lead from item to item to item that made a lot more intelligent sense.
Can you elaborate a little bit on some of those key points that they sort of gave you feedback on that you adjusted?
Yeah. So two big elements that they helped with was one, the timeline of the company in terms of where we've gotten to and where it's going to get us to next. And
Right.
looking at really those key strategic endpoints of what would an investor want to see. And we had all the parts there, but it was X dollars get you where in what timeline, and what is that potential gain in terms of value. And do that a couple times, and it really shapes out a very nice investment picture. And then the second piece was we'd always talked about how we compare with other companies. It was looking at as an exit, comparable companies that have exited like us. How do we look? And really, when you look at that in terms of the potential unicorn, we look really cheap, and it's really attractive for an investor from that perspective.
Oh, interesting. Right. And just having someone shed light on that or put a magnifying glass on that, you kind of just a bit of
Yeah,
an aha moment there, hey?
we were telling that story, but we weren't telling it right. And that's what it came down to. And that was the
Right.
beautiful thing about this about interacting with these people. They're like, "You're saying it, you're not saying it. Let's put it
Right.
all together."
Wow, great. Now, you admitted to me earlier that public speaking isn't your favorite. So, how do you work with that? As CEO, you probably do a lot of that, and did was that the aspect of the role that you stepped into that you sort of were least excited about?
So that's a great question, because being a mechanical engineer, I've always been the person to make stuff happen, and
Right.
behind the scenes person. You can't figure it out. We'll make it go. We'll fix the problem. We'll make things work. And having run a factory for many years, public speaking isn't the strength, but being the CEO of a company is very different. You are the face of the company, and it is something that repetition, the more you do it, the more you get comfortable with it, the more that your story comes into focus too. And
Hmm.
once the story is clear, it also builds confidence, because you have a story that you can tell and you can be confident with. And from that perspective, it gets easier because, okay, I know what I'm saying. I know how to do this. Sometimes I get tongue tied or whatever, but it's still something that uh, as you do more often, you just get more comfortable with. And I see how people can do this and get comfortable. I don't know that I'll ever be completely comfortable public speaking,
Right.
but I'm definitely a world better than I was. And it has to do with a lot of elements of the technology, the team. And if I don't do this, who will? When you look at it from that perspective, when we got into this, we said, if we don't take this technology out of the lab, it's going to die on the shelf. And this
Right.
technology could help a lot of people. It's a
Hmm.
platform beyond just skin cancer. If ultimately the technology was developed to do intraoperative margin detection, so when
Oh.
a cancer surgeon is cutting a tumor out, did they get all the tumor? And
Oh.
that's the
Okay.
question that we're trying to answer. And this technology can be used to do that in real time in the OR. So that is step two for us. And if we
Mm.
don't do this, then how many people won't be helped if we don't take this technology to market? So from that perspective, the responsibility element plays into this, and it enforces. All right, let's get on with it. Let's do this.
Yeah, that would certainly drive conviction for sure. Absolutely. Um, now, how would you see the in comparison with another company whose founder is leading the way? You're not the scientist. You, like I've said, you have an engineering background. You come from a completely other place. Do you think there's any advantage that you aren't the founders? Founders tend to be very invested in the science side of things. Is there an advantage that you have having come from a more objective approach?
Yeah. So in a lot of ways, I feel that my background is perfectly built for what is needed to do this. One, I'm a mechanical engineer, so I do understand how equipment goes together. I'm a businessman, so I understand the business opportunity and the business path to market. I can want a lot of things, but at the end of the day, it's got to make financial sense or it's not going to get adopted. It's not going to be out there. Being not the one who created the technology, I can get outside of the technology. I don't dive into the weeds right away with the tech and get focused on that. So in that regards, I can remain very disconnected from the tech. And then the other piece that we really haven't touched on is I'm a bit older in life. I've been around the block, done things. I'm not a young 20 something that's starting a company. In that regards, I know what I know. I also know what I don't know, more importantly. And I'm quite content saying, hey, I need somebody to help me in this space.
Mm.
We need somebody that is an expert in this space. And we're comfortable saying, that's what we need. Let's make them part of our team. As a result, our team is a bit bigger than typical. But
Mm.
we can do that because we can pull the people in, we can make it attractive for them, and we can do it in a very financially responsible way. And yet, we can solve a problem and we can bring somebody of very high caliber to the table, which we've done, and make it so this whole thing will work and will succeed. Because at the end of the day, that's the model that I follow is success, not excuses.
Oh, I like that. That's a good one. Success, not excuses. Very good. Cool. Exciting. Well, what's give me sort of a final sort of read and feedback on your Moneyball experience. You've now just come through. You went to bio after doing the Moneyball program, and now you've gone to JP Morgan Week. So give me kind of a before and after comparison, and maybe in light of somebody else looking at maybe joining the Moneyball program.
Yeah, I would say that two big things have come out of the Moneyball program, in addition to new connections and the opportunity to meet a lot of new investors. But the two big things is one I touched on previously was the confidence. Having the confidence that what you put together in the presentation, in the deck, and the way you're talking about it makes sense and is clear. And that is a huge, huge plus to be able to sit down with an investor and say, hey, we've got something here and it's attractive and we're saying the right message. And then two, the second piece of it has really been the people that I've met through it, whether it be other founders, just like myself, have become very good friends, and we connect with each other offline all the time, talking about how do you do this, how did you solve this problem, or how did you bring somebody in to do this, and just whatever the little problem or roadblock is. Now I've got this network of people I can connect with to solve something that I didn't have before.
Right.
And they're all great people and nice people and really trying to do things for the right reasons. And that piece of it can be just as empowering as the first part was. And with that, I really think, Moneyball program, I can't rant and rave about it enough. So
Amazing. Well, thanks. Any last remarks, or maybe actually some information if people want to learn more about IR Medtek, or want to connect with you? Where can they find you? What's the website address?
yeah, so our website's easy, irmedtek.com. That's IRMEDTEK.com. Send us an email, send us a note, send us a note on LinkedIn. Happy to connect and talk more about our path to market. We're hoping to be on the market in 2 to 3 years and helping improve results with skin cancer.
I'm excited to see where this goes, and I wish you all the best of luck in the months and ahead, Doug, and I really appreciate your time today joining me on this episode.
Well, thank you for having me. This has been fun.